Okay, first of all, if you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. I'm David Taylor. I'm the Search Committee Chair, and I wish to first thank all the other members of the committee, Denny Dixon, Esther Goldstein, Steve Korsonis, and Paul Rush. Esther, Steve, and Paul are assisting us today. I thank them very much for all the work they've done in recruiting our 3 excellent candidates. I also give special thanks to Linda Irwin, who, as a committee, we would not have worked half as well if Linda hadn't been there to give us support and keep us on the straight and narrow with all the rules and regulations. So thank you very much, Linda. We have a very strong slate of candidates. We have Len Alcantara, Tony Muscat, and Joe O'Connor. I thank them for supporting our community in this way. It's not an easy task running for the board, and I'm very grateful for them doing it. I really appreciate it. There are 2 open positions of the 7 total board members. You've all been able to get a copy of the latest profiles and platforms for each of them. Those are available at the entrance, and they're also posted on the Saddlebrook.org website. Seating at the table is in the order of remarks, the opening remarks. We determined that by drawing a little while ago. When they're responding for questions, number 1 will be answered by Tony, who's the first speaker, but then question number 2 will be answered by Joe. So we go down the line. Each speaker will answer a question first, and then we come back, as long as I can keep the order in mind. 3 people might even be a challenge for me these days. Okay. Each candidate will make opening remarks for 3 minutes. In the past, we've given them 5 minutes, but we've had a number of comments, actually not really that many, but one comment was, keep the meeting short. So in the interest of keeping the meeting short, we shortened the opening remarks to 3 minutes. Another comment that we've had was that we should have people actually asking questions at the meeting rather than collecting them in and then me asking them. So we are trying that this year. I do have some written questions that have been given to me today, but while people are coming up and asking questions, we will give priority to those questions. In order to keep the meeting short, probably the objective will I will try and determine how people are feeling, but if we will probably stop the questioning around 3:20, 3:30, and then the candidates will each have 2 minutes just to give a little final wrap up. When you're asking your questions, please come up to the mics. There's one here, one at the back. When you've asked your question, if you've got a second question, don't just stand there. Please go to the back. Let other people have an opportunity to question. We'll see how it goes, but that's what we're trying to do. Please be direct with your questions. We don't need your views on the question. We want the candidates' views on the question. So just ask the question. We don't need the background. Okay. And then when you're asking the question, please state your name and unit number. We are again recording the proceedings, so you'll be able to see what's going on the website. We think it will be available, I think Linda told me, on Wednesday. Encourage all your neighbours to keep an eye on it. And I think that's about it for now. The candidates have asked that I introduced each of them. I think they're probably going to come up to the lectern. It's up to them whether they come to the lectern or they stay seated. But the first speaker will be Tony Muscat. Tony.
Okay, somehow I drew the number. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's a really good turnout. It's great to see everybody here. And what that tells me is that everybody here is really interested in the governance of their community. Okay, so from that end, okay, let me add 3 seconds to the clock. Okay, Saddlebrook. So what does Saddlebrook mean? What does Saddlebrook mean to us? Okay, to me, it means great golf, great groups, great clubs, great amenities, and most of all, great friends. Okay, we've all made great friends here. This community is also made up of great committees, and I want to say thank you to all the committee chairs in this community that have dedicated their time, all the members of those communities. It takes a lot to make this community run, and I want to say thank you. It's a very important part. It fosters community, and that's exactly what we're looking for here. So thank you once again. So a little bit about me. In 2014, my wife Ann and I purchased a home. In 2018, we moved here full-time. And also in February of this year, we became grandparents for the first time. And that was kind of cool, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So I'm enjoying it. And both of us have made loads of friends and really enjoy our time here. As many of you know, I have been actively involved in this community since 2019. I started out on long-range planning. I was on that committee. I was also a member of the Property and Roads Committee. And then for the last 2 years, I have been chairman of the Property and Roads Committee. And we've done some really good things on the Property and Roads Committee. John LaBar, of course, is the great guy who works on the roads, but on top of that, we have worked with the operations team to work on a remodel of the Roadrunner Grill. We have tried to capture everything that could possibly happen. I have a construction background. Don Aratola, who's a board member, also has a construction background. And we've worked really, really hard to capture all of anything that could possibly go wrong. Can I tell you that we caught everything? Probably not, but we caught most of it. And you will all see that in the next couple of weeks when the Roadrunner Grill opens. Also, I have been involved in Property and Roads with a beautification project. We started out really early this year in the springtime with phase 1. We're working on phase 2 to come up in the spring of 2024 with some more plantings around the community. And we're also going to start to work our way out to all the common ground areas. Also I've been heavily involved in the potential in getting all the information necessary for a potential new community center. I've spent a lot of time on that for the last 4 or 5 months, and there will be more to add on that in the future, okay? So as you can see, I've spent a lot of time in this community working with the operations team, working with other committees, and I think right now is the right time to move forward. I feel I'm ready for the board of directors, okay? So when you cast your vote, vote for me, and I promise you I will work tirelessly for that community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. The next speaker will be Joe O'Connor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out and taking interest in this very, very important election. And to my fellow veterans who are in the audience today, thank you for serving. My wife Lydia and I moved here from Rochester, Minnesota 7 years ago, and we never imagined the quality of life that we would experience in this community. HOA 1 is a tremendous success story, And I want to be part of the board of directors to help maintain and improve the quality of life for every one of you. I've got 3 topics I'd like to cover today: my profile, platform, my priorities for 2024, and then also why I think you should vote for me. My platform is very simply, stay on track. Our committees, our association, the management have done a tremendous job developing plans, a 10-year financial plan that lays out in detail where we're going in the future, a 20-year reserve replacement schedule. When they're right out there for when all of the infrastructure, buildings, equipment needs to be replaced or repaired. And there's also been a lot of cooperation ongoing with HOA too, at both the committee level, the staff level, the management level. And I'd like to see this continue, to cooperate with them. And then also I think that we should take a look at our marketing program. My priorities for 2024 will be maintaining and improving the amenities that we all enjoy. Planning is ongoing, as Tony mentioned, for a potential new community center. They're doing great work over in that committee on that. We'll do an updated reserve study, and that has to be results incorporated into the new, or into the current replacement reserve schedule. And as I said before, I think we need to take a hard look at how we market our community as a whole. Now I'll ask for your vote today because I believe that my military and civilian experience will bring valuable experience to the board in terms of planning and decision making. This experience includes leadership in combat in Vietnam, high-level positions in the Army, to include working at the Pentagon, and ownership of a successful financial planning business. As I look to the future, I see HOA1 as a thriving, successful, safe, affordable community where people have a great quality of life and enjoy living here. If I'm elected, I guarantee you I will work as hard as I have to stay on track. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And the next speaker is Len Alcantara.
Can I stay here?
You can stay there if you wish.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you know, we're running for 2 seats, and I just want to spend a little time talking about the 2 people that we're not replacing, but changing seats with. Marty O'Shea and Don Aratola. Both of these gentlemen, I served with them for 6 years when I served on the board, and I just want to say that Marty O'Shea kept the finances on track, watched every penny, and was remarkable in what he could do. He came up here from Tucson, he lived in Tucson, and immediately got involved in the community. And it was great to have a professional on the board. We're gonna miss him. Don Aratola also lived in Tucson and worked as a professional engineer. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, to be a professional engineer, you really have to take a lot of tests and everything else. And he did so much work on trying to make sense of the pickleball situation that we had, and has done a tremendous amount of work on the Roadrunner. Thank you very much, Don. I do that because a lot of times when people leave the board, you never get to say anything about them, and they're just 2 special people. About myself, I was in the Coast Guard for 26 years. I went to the Coast Guard Academy, and for you that have grandsons or granddaughters in that age, to get into the Coast Guard Academy, it's the one academy that is purely competitive. You don't have to get anything from any representative or senator or anything like that to get an appointment. So if you have kids like that or grandkids like that, consider it. I went to William & Mary Law School while I was in the Coast Guard and served some of my jobs were actually I had 6 years sea duty, but some of my jobs were legal. One of them was Chief of Maritime International Law for the entire Coast Guard in Washington. And as a result of a good job done there, they gave me a good job to go to, and I went to Honolulu as captain of the port, where I retired with my wife and started a law practice, hung out a shingle, as they say. And our firm grew to 12 lawyers. I have 1 minute left? Okay. What I want to do for the community is really to keep it on track, pretty much like Joe said and Tony said. I consider our community to be an adult community. I don't like over-regulation of the community. I served on the Rules and Regulations Committee, and we try to make sanity out of any of the regulations that come out of the community. I worked very hard on the reciprocal use agreement that we have, and I think it brings sanity to having the two Saddlebrook HOAs work together in unity. It's sort of like having California and Florida work together. I consider us to be Florida. Anyway, we'll keep us on the hot, straight, and true. And my time is up. Sorry. That went quickly.
It does. Yeah, 3 minutes goes.
Okay, thank you, Len. Well, now it's up to you. Is there anybody who wish to get up and ask some questions, please? If you don't, I have some of my own.
Dave Rutkowski, Unit 10A, Lot 28. Len, you just mentioned the fact that the big thing you did, one of the things you did for the community was work with on the reciprocal use agreement. Do you see this reciprocal use agreement as a good tool for future building between the two HOAs, or is it a hindrance to us building something for our people and their people using it? Yeah.
I'm supposed to answer that one.
Well, no, I asked the question. All three. I think the order is all three, right? It's Tony first.
You threw me a little bit by asking Len, but perhaps Tony, you should start. That was how we said we were going to go.
Okay, you guys can hear me? Well, it was on. Can you hear me now? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, the reciprocal use agreement. So the question is, do we think it's a hindrance, or is it something that's going to help us move forward? Okay, I do not think the reciprocal use agreement is a hindrance. I think it's an extension of what most of us, all of us, pretty much bought into when we moved in here. So we hear that there's lots of conversation going on between 1 and 2, and I think that needs to continue so that we can open up the dialogue and make sure that we can extend that reciprocal use agreement, because I think it's very important within this community. Hope I answered your question.
I'd agree on that. I don't see the reciprocal use agreement as any sort of a hindrance. My wife and I enjoy the HOA 2 amenities, the restaurant, the Desert View Theater, the fitness center, and their golf area. So I can't imagine why it wouldn't be renewed when the time is up in 2009. It's a great tool for us to share resources and to probably double the amenities that we have available if we were just without the reciprocal use agreement.
Get to your question. The reciprocal use agreement was 25 years, and then it came up for either review or to roll over for more years. HOA 2 decided to use it as a tool to gain an advantage for their pickleball costs. And unfortunately, it became a really, really big slog to get through. We were about 8 months into it, a week at a time. There were 3 of us on the committee. Shar Crossman was an ace on it. I don't know if you know Shar. I think you do. And it really boiled down to they wanted us to pay for part of the pickleball expansion. We didn't like the pickleball expansion anyway because it infringed on our own residents. But be that as it may, it became a real slog, and at the end of the day, we finally said to them, look, either you agree to a simple solution of we use yours, they use, you use ours, and or this is not going to go anywhere. Well, as it worked out, they finally agreed that that was a good solution. If you look at the agreement, you'll see it can be read really in one paragraph in about 10 seconds. The rest of it is boilerplate, which they wanted, and I agreed to, and we agreed to. But yes, it's a good agreement. It's solid. It's simple. It will go in until 2009, and then it will roll over for 5-year periods. It'll just keep going until someone wants to change it. I don't see us wanting to change it, although we made it a little shorter. It was deliberate on our part because we didn't know what Robeson was going to do with the preserve and how many more buildings that he was going to put up there, how many more homes. As some of you know, Unit 14, 15, and which is over by the Catalina course, that should have been part of HOA 1, but because of a dispute of a previous board, one of our board and Robeson, our board didn't want those units to be built because it would overload our golf courses. Instead, Robeson said, fine, I'll put it in HOA 2 and create a whole new unit, and it created this mess that we're in right now. In any event, my time's up. You're a very good timekeeper. But, in short, it's a good agreement. It's a solid agreement. My guess is it'll just keep rolling over just fine.
Okay, thank you, Len. I think you said the agreement ends in 2009. It's 29, yeah. Thank you. Okay, yes? Harry.
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2, 18 years in Saddlebrook and 32 years in HOAs in California. I'd sent in my questions ahead of time because I didn't want to give the candidates any surprises. The Saddlebrook 1 and 2 surveys indicated that 57% of Saddlebrook 1, 24% undecided, and only 19% no, and 70% of Saddlebrook 2 with 17% undecided and only 13% no, which support exploring the unification of the two communities. So what is your position regarding unification or a master association with Saddlebrook 2 in 5 years or so when Robeson is out of Saddlebrook as ways to enhance the overall community and compete with Robeson, Trilogy, Del Webb, and achieve the vision of the active adult community of choice in Arizona?
I believe the question is, what is my position on planning for a unified master association? In preparation for this question, I studied all of the United Saddlebrook literature. I read the March 2020 long-range plan that was presented. I've read the statement from the joint boards saying that it's neither feasible or desirable to have a unification. Now, I've also went out and talked to probably at least 150 people in announcing that I was running, or I've had people just come up to me when I'm volunteering and say, I hear you're running for the board. What's your position on unification? And I say, well, why did you ask that? And it's a unanimous response. We don't want anything to do with the money issues that HOA2's got, financially solvent, and we want to stay that way. We want to stay private. So my position on it, as I stated in my comments, Harry, is that I'm all for continued cooperation, but beyond that, at this point, our H2 is, I don't see us going beyond that.
Okay, I would agree with Joe on those points. And also I think because of the reciprocal agreement being as pure and simple as it is, we are unified. It's just that we have a business plan that's than what HOA2 has as a business plan. And it's uncertain just how they're going. And that's the reason why I would say we'll keep it the way it is and keep an eye on what's going on. But for now, I think any unification would be off the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I somewhat agree with these two gentlemen here. I don't believe in a near future it's a possibility right now, but what I would like to see, and I'm going to make this pretty simple, is I would like to see better cooperation between HOA 1 and HOA 2, whether it's through the joint long-range plan that was done by the long-range planning committees of both communities that was dismissed and not acted upon or not even discussed. And if there has been any conversation, we always hear about transparency and giving that feedback back to the community. If there is cooperation, there's a lot of people who I talk to that really don't understand what's going on between the two HOAs. So I think the first start, I don't think bringing in a third party or somebody like that to look at a master association at this time is the right thing to do. But what I do believe is that we need to really explore ways to work together and to help each other out, because it's a big community and I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else with a question?
Yes, this is BJ Murray. I'm in Unit 1, third house built. I don't know what my lot number is. So what I'm trying to do is give a voice to many of the people that aren't in this room, and that is those people that are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia and all the things that scare the hell out of all of us. There's many of them in the community, and we know this from the Senior Village discussions. And I was wondering if you guys could start to consider a daycare or something for the caregivers so that they can get some assistance taking care of their loved ones.
I think now it's Len, right? Goes first.
I think so, yeah. I'm not sure what kind of daycare that you're talking about, an elder care thing or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, where we would hire a third-party company to take care of these people for a few hours a day.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I think Senior does a great job with that, and we could explore off of them what or how we could help them perhaps pursue what you're talking about. But I'm not sure I could. Sorry, this is working a little crazy, but I'm not sure how I envision a daycare, elder care kind of thing, although I like the concept.
Funding. That's what you could help with.
Okay, I have to be honest with you. It's a great idea. It's worth discussion, how it gets funded, and all the other pieces that go with that. It would have to be discussed and actually worked out. So it's a great idea. Senior Village does a great job. And I know a lot of people need assistance here. So something to talk about. Something will work out.
I went.
Sorry, that was me. It's off.
Okay.
You're good.
Incoming. I did some research on this, BJ, and I went to the health fair on Saturday, and I spoke with one firm that provides elder care, and they're a group that comes in home. They travel around. They start out with an assessment of the need, and then what resources are available from a medical perspective. But the gentleman who is representing his firm did tell me that the medical community recognizes this is a great void in healthcare for seniors. And I also got was over to the Views for a restaurant after church on Sunday, and I picked up their version of our communicator. And I see that they have a committee, a cognitive loss and memory support group. So it's something going on in that community over there that could be, we could query them. And then the third thing is I read in the paper this morning that there's an organization set up called Elder Rehab. And they actually have a program with the University of Arizona where they take seniors with memory issues, they take them to a fitness center twice a week, to help give them a different venue and some quality of life. But I like Lynn. I think it's a good idea, and I have spoken to Senior Village about it already, and one of their team leaders has agreed to look at it. So, good idea. Just another quality of life opportunity for the leadership of the community.
Thank you, Joe.
Chuck Morgan, Unit 3. Going back to the question was asked about unification. One of the things we commonly hear is better cooperation with HOA2, which I think is great. What I would like to know is what do you see as one or two impediments to that cooperation, and what would you do to change them during the term, your term on the board?
An impediment that we have is that their business plan or business scheme is not the same as ours. We pay one community service fee. You get to use everything except, of course, golf, which is a separate entity. But they have, like, for instance, in their softball, those people actually have to sign a contract with their own HOA and get their own insurance to be a community, an amenity within that. The same thing with pickleball with them. They sign a contract with the HOA. It's a different way that we do business.
My question is, what are the impediments to cooperation, not to merger? I'm in those 150 people he talked to that says, I don't want anything to do with a merger. But what things, we always say better cooperation with HOA2. What areas are we not cooperating with them in, and how do we improve that? That's my question.
Communication. Communication is one thing that sometimes they'll do things and not tell us what they're doing. For instance, Comcast. They went ahead and contracted with Comcast, which was a good idea. Some people don't think it was a good idea. But we followed up and went to Comcast ourselves and did what we thought we had to do. It would have been better if we went together. So cooperation, but cooperation has to come from both sides. We can't just not know what they're doing. For instance, they're creating a an app for their own use within the community. Now, it would have been better if they had to come to us and say, why don't you guys join us in setting up an app to access different things in the community. They didn't, and we probably will in the future, but those kinds of things can help. And make things better between the communities, but it works both ways.
Okay. Communication is absolutely correct. We have to be more open in talking with each other. Okay. Len just mentions this app. We talked about this on long-range planning, having apps to where we can actually make the community more interactive. We good? Okay. To where we could make the community more interactive. Okay. Let's try that again. Start over, Paul. Okay. So we've actually had conversation like this within long-range planning. We brought some of this up, never kind of went anywhere. But just as Len said, communication has to be open. If we hear about things that are being talked between the two HOAs, that should be communicated out to the HOA public, okay, so that we understand whether it's acted on or not. That's a whole nother story, but we should at least know what the communications are. We can work together on food and beverage. We can work together on patrol. We can work together on golf. We can work together on a lot of things to help both communities move forward and to reduce costs in both communities. But we got to talk to each other.
In my 12 years on the city council in a small city in Minnesota, two or three other cities could not afford to have a full-blown police department, full-blown fire department, full-blown ambulance department. So we city council simply designated a couple of people to present them the courses and come up with solutions. And you don't have to have separate forms of government to work together. Now, what I would look at is my approach to this, and what I'm going to recommend to the board is that we should set up a formal meeting, perhaps semi-annual, with the other board and have an agenda. The agenda being, okay, what are your priorities? What are issues? What are opportunities for cooperation? And then with a report back to the community. Because, just talking about cooperation, in my mind, you need some sort of a structure, and you need to give the residents of the community some feedback what's going on. Because, providing feedback to residents will generate a whole lot of good ideas coming back to us.
Do a piece first.
Hello, my name is John Davis. Unit 12, Lot 34. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, member of the 401k Committee. Last December, in the last week, 4 of the 7 board members got together and disbanded the Long Range Planning Committee. My question is, do you think that was a good idea? And would you reinstate the Long Range Planning Committee? Thank you.
Okay. John, to answer your question, is this thing working again? There we go. Yes, I would reinstate the Long Range Planning Committee. I think long range in this community, we hear a lot, and even current board members, that we have a long range plan. We have a long range financial plan that addresses the assets of this community. We do not have a long range plan in this community that addresses where this community in 10, 15, 20 years down the road is going to be receptive to the new group of retirees that are looking for active 55 and older places. So to answer your question, yes, I probably would move to reinstate the Long Range Planning Committee. I would also even look outside if we wanted to bring in a third-party strategic planner, if that was the right thing to do. I'm open to that, but the biggest thing is I'm open to discussion. And I think long-range planning for any community, whether it's a large city, an HOA, a small little village, is very important on where that community is going to be headed.
Well, in my past life as a certified financial planner, I used to tell people that failing to plan is planning to fail. And so I think that we need to have an active, ongoing, long-range planning group, and that specific guidance need to be issued by the board of directors, as it should be to every community or every committee. So I think that yes, I would support revisiting this question in terms of an outside third party. That may be the right solution down the road, but I don't see us writing a check for $70,000 to $80,000 just to find out what we want to do.
I would support a long-range planning committee that works, and that's the difficulty, is the board has to point to the committee or direct the committee as to what they're supposed to do. I mean, we're a limited resource here. We have a small package. We have no land to go any further out. So what are you going to plan as a long-range planning committee? Maybe changing an amenity into something else or something like that. But the finance committee really directs a lot of the long-range planning. And that is to keep the facilities going, keep them up and everything else. So yeah, a long-range planning committee is a great idea if it works, if it's made to work correctly, which is long-range plans that are realistic. I mean, let's face it, we're built out. We have just so many things that we have. We're not going to have any more unless we convert one thing to another. And I don't know if you need a committee to do that, but in simply stated, I guess, I would support a long-range planning committee if it's given specific directions as to what they're supposed to be doing.
My name is Candy Brocky, and I'm in Unit 3N, and I have no idea what my lot number is. But my question is simple. I'm a unit rep, and part of our unit rep's job is to welcome new people to our units or to the community. And as such, myself and some of my neighbors will go out and meet new people. The question that comes up, and I'm looking for an elevator speech, and for those of you, most of you are familiar, that's something you can say quickly and concisely and move on, is people say to me, so Candy, what's the difference between HOA 1 and HOA 2? And elevator speeches, please.
I think I'm up, all right, David? Okay. The difference between HOA 1 and HOA 2 is it was, Lynn brought up earlier, one of the things that I see as a difference is the difference business model. And whereas we attempt to do a lot of our work, or most of our work in-house, they're taking a path here where they want to go with, or they've gone with a professional organization to manage their golf operations, and hired an external source to do a strategic plan. So I see one difference is that, although I don't think it's a showstopper for new residents, that we operate slightly different. In terms of feeling welcome, when I go over to HOA 2, I feel extremely welcome, just like I do when I go to the fitness center here. So I don't see any difference there in the way that you would be treated if you're from HOA 1 or HOA 2. So other than the business model, Candy, I don't really see an awful lot of difference. I mean, I just read the results of their resident survey. And, they've got the things on their mind that are important to people. They want to have trust in their governance. They want better roads. They want better food and beverage operations at the Mountain View Club. And so in my 7 years here, we've been through some of those, bumps in the road too in food service. So I don't see a huge difference that other than perhaps I should throw one in quick. I think that comes up to me as when I came down here, I said, I'm going to a place that's got a good, strong reserve fund, having been through a homeowners association where we didn't have one in Minnesota.
I think that differences are finances. Their finances are not quite as in order as our finances are, and they have a way to go, I think, in getting them in order. I think you have to remember that they are open to the public on many things. Their golf is open to the public. I think some of the restaurants, or the restaurant may be open to the public. I'm not sure about that. So there is a difference in the way they operate and the way we operate. We operate pretty much like a private club, and they don't. So those are the differences.
Okay, Harry, thank you.
Hold on here. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. I forget you sometimes.
That was quick.
Business models are different. Okay, there's no doubt about that. In regards to the communities are both warm, welcoming communities. Okay, business models, they're nothing that can be overcome in how we run our business. Okay, we still run our business, they still run their business. That's just two separate things. The communities are very, very similar. They have their issues, and I absolutely agree. They're what, maybe 3-4 years now out from separation from Robeson. That's going to take some time to sort out. It took our HOA some time to sort out. But is there a difference? There's a difference behind the scene, but in regards to the community, it's still the same warm, welcoming community.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Now,
Harry Ford, Unit 21, Lot 2 again. Saddlebrook 2, in their McMahon strategic planning work, has $75,000 for a facilities master plan for the future. Saddlebrook 1 currently has 62,456 square feet of buildings that are now up to 33 years old. At $550 a square foot, to rehab or replace those buildings is $34.4 million. We have $3 million of reserves. So we're $31 million or $15,000 per home short. So do you think Saddlebrook 1 should have a facilities master plan to repair or replace the buildings and amenities in the building improvements which are not in the replacement reserve fund? As our infrastructure will be 40 years old in 6 years, and we have to stay competitive with Robeson, Trilogy, and Del Webb to get the vision of active adult community of choice in Arizona. $75,000 to plan for the future.
thank you, Harry. Len, I think it's you this time.
Well, I'm not sure about your figures, Harry, because you're much more knowledgeable than I am about that, but I can tell you this, we're in fine shape. We really are. And Don Aratola did a ton of work on looking at what we have, what we don't have, the useful life, and so forth. Vivian is all over it. So we as a community should rest easy that we're not going to fall apart. We're in good shape.
Harry, I don't, as somebody who's in the construction business and spends a lot of time building stuff and has done it for many years, you're not going to replace these buildings. You're going to enhance them, move them forward, so on and so forth. So the monies that you're talking about, and I'm not going to get into the figures, but if something happens to a building because it burns down or something like that, that's covered by the insurance policies that the HOA has out. Our job is to make sure that the buildings stay up to date and moving towards the next 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So I think, I tend to agree with Len. Vivian's done a great job. Don Aratola has put together a great facilities asset list that Vivian tracks to, that John Reed tracks to. If the buildings are going to get redone, that's something that we have to work together as a team to do. But the buildings, we're not going to have to rebuild the buildings.
I've attended 3 finance committee meetings and 3 board meetings since I decided to seek this position. And I've heard several different sets of numbers thrown around. So to get to the bottom of where we stand, I've met with the manager, I've met with the controller, I've met with former members of the finance committee, and I'm comfortable with the numbers that they're showing me, that we are in good shape with our reserves and our capital improvement fund, and we're going to be going forward without any big surprise assessments, which is that can be concluded from some of the comments I hear bantered around in the public media, things like that. We're in great shape. Let's stay on track.
My only response to that is that we've been working for No, I'm saying no response. We've been working for 10 years on replacing the community center. Replacing it.
Sit down. Turn off his mic.
Fran Berman, Unit 5, Lot 28. First of all, I want to thank everyone for running for the board. 3 years is a big commitment, and I appreciate your standing up. My question is about a walking path along the 2 busiest sections of Ridgeview, from Saddlebrook Boulevard to Rolling Hills, and Saddlebrook Boulevard to the Catalina Shack. Catalina Recreation Center. I know that a few years ago, pre-COVID, the then Property and Roads Committee did a study and assessed that it would be something like $450,000 to create a walking path taking people off the dangerous roads. That's if you go all the way around Ridgeview, but I'm talking about just those 2 busiest sections. And considering all the money we put into the golf course, first of all, why can't we? And second of all, how will you give us a path so that people can walk their dogs on a walking path, not on the street? We can get people off the asphalt and open it up to golf carts, bicycles, and the maintenance carts. And I also know that a lot of people walk on the side streets because it's unsafe to walk on Ridgeview. Meanwhile, their dogs are walking on the hot asphalt. So my question again is, what will you do to give us a walking path off the asphalt, off the roadway, on those 2 busiest sections of Ridgeview? Thank you.
All right, I'll give it a shot anyway. But I think it's a great idea. It's a question of allocating the money and whether we have the land right of way to be able to do it. I just don't know. I could support it, but there's a lot of competing dollars too on different things. We have to look at the Arts and Crafts Center next. That's the big thing coming up. We did a great job on the Roadrunner. You're going to love the Roadrunner. It's just beautiful. And we built a billiard center. None of it was done without any assessments at all. So that's all a credit to Vivian and her team. But if there's money and it's a possibility, I would support it. Thank you.
Well, ideally, in an ideal world, Robeson would have thought of this when he built the community, but he didn't. One thing I attended the Property and Roads Committee meeting, was that last week, Tony? Yeah. And this was brought up, and there was, the cost was surprising to me, but when you look at all the work that needs to be done just to get from the Catalina Recreation Center over to Saddlebrook Boulevard, it would be an awful lot of work. Now, I brought up the point at that meeting that we do have a walking path, finished walking path, that goes from, you can start at the tennis court, you can go out towards Saddlebrook Boulevard, up Saddlebrook Boulevard, past the bank, up the hill to Mountain View Boulevard, down the hill, and if you get to the Mountain View Club, you've gone 2 miles. If you want to go another mile on a safe road and sidewalks, you just go down 1 more mile down to the Desert View Theater. So there is a path available at the current time. The second thing is that we have 8 miles of golf cart trails that are open to people before and after golf hours. So, to answer this question, you're going to get into a detailed discussion about wants versus needs. I also checked with whether there were any safety issues in terms of people walking on Ridgeview. I agree it's a safety issue. I'd like to see Patrol 1 stop and correct people who are walking the wrong direction, for instance. But I think that I was told that there's been no safety issues yet on this walking trail. It'd be great to have, but it's going to come down to money and priorities.
He's absolutely right. This has been an ongoing discussion for several years within Property and Roads, and we are working to put together some walking path templates and pictures to try and get out to the community so that we can help. It's a huge expense. Fran, your number of $400,000 to go all the way around, not even close. There's a lot of civil work involved. I've talked about it with John Reed. I've talked about it with some other people who I know are civil engineers. There's a lot of work that would have to be done. And probably just going from the Catalina community area down to Saddlebrook Boulevard would probably cost about $400,000 minimum just to get that work done. So there's a lot involved in it. It's not an easy question. It's like Joe said, it's want versus need, and we have to prioritize the money. Is the availability to do it out there? Absolutely. It all depends. You have to decide as a resident of this community how you want to prioritize it and if you want to pay for it.
Yeah, my name is Roland Deramont. It's not on, I guess. Just get closer. Yeah, my name is Roland Deramont, and I'm on the Health and Wellness Committee. We just met this morning for about 2 hours, and part of our discussion this morning was this path. We have been working on this path for quite a few years. I've been on this committee 14 years already, and this issue's been around probably for 5-6 years at least, okay? The big thing of it is right now what we're looking at is in the future to put a path in from Saddlebrook Boulevard up to the Catalina Recreation Center. Again, there's a lot of logistics involved, and again, it costs a lot of money. And one of the priorities right now that is going on is, again, the revitalization of the fitness center, which is number one right now. So this project, as far as the path, eventually I feel, and the committee feels, it will get done. We're looking at, we did a survey many years ago on this issue. The residents requested that we put one in. We're looking possibly at doing something like that again and see what the residents want right now. Maybe they've changed their mind. But we feel eventually this project will get done.
I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I just want to interject because I was at the meeting and let people know that this is in the works and it's not just
Okay, it's in the works. Okay.
It's in the works.
Thank
That's
you.
all I wanted to say.
All right,
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Dave Rutkowski, Unit 10A, Lot 28. All three of you gentlemen said that the number one problem with unity potential with HOA 2 is communication. Which one of you wants to lead the communication going forward? That would be the person that I would think would get my vote.
Okay, I've got it worked out this time. It's Tony, then Joe, then Len.
Okay, who wants to lead it? I do. I want to lead it because I think it's important. You know, I'm not the smartest guy in the hen house, but if there's one thing I can do is I can get people talking, okay, having that conversation. We don't always have to agree, but we have to at least start the conversation. There's going to be ebbs and flows in the conversation. We just have to work through it. So in answering your question, if I'm elected to the board, I would love to be that point person.
Well, I would gladly accept the invitation to lead that effort too. I think it's very important that we have a person representing you in the community who can build consensus, who takes a common sense approach to these type things. That's why I said earlier, I think that there should be some sort of a formal agreement between the two boards that we meet, we have an agenda, and we report back to the community. And I have been pretty effective in my life in communicating and bringing people together. And I agree that if we did get together, there's going to be areas that we agree to disagree in. You know, but at least we have to get together and talk and seek opportunities that benefit both associations.
I think that the board should communicate to the other board through the president, not through any individual. It's not up to individuals to communicate board to board. It should be the presidents that should communicate with their president.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for running. I really appreciate it. I guess part of my question is, well, first of all, Len, is that in the bylaws that the president's the only person that can talk to the board, the other person, president of the board?
Kathleen?
Oh, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Kathleen Sartoris. I am in Unit 12 and whatever lot he says. And I'm on the board, yes. So I'm just curious. You seem to imply that it has to go president to president. Conversation between 1 and 2?
No, it's not required president to president, but that would be make the most sense, because then the president has the power of the board to say what the board is communicating to the other people. I'm not saying that you can't communicate with another board, another member of that board. I mean, I know the president. I mean, we dealt with each other when we were doing the reciprocal agreement. Great guy. I enjoyed him, and I could call him up and talk to him. That's not a problem. But I'm just saying, if you want to do communication on a plan or some other project, it should be, president to president. As a matter of sense, I mean.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what the exact sense is. I hear Joe and Tony talking about an open meeting where, sorry. Okay, that's fine. But I just want you to consider that we shouldn't have limited communication.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify one thing, it would not go well just one board member communicating with the other side, at least misinforming them as to what the rest of the board and community thinks. Sure, communicating is one thing. You get on the phone or you do an email. But if you're going to communicate plans, it should go board to board. It should go president to president. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay, can we leave this? Can I just remind everybody, be direct with your questions, and we're not here to debate, we're here to hear their views, and their views are what we're supposed to hear, not give our views and debate them. So, okay, there was a question. Okay, carry on.
Well, I didn't mean to indicate that I'd run off on my own and communicate with the HOA2 board, because I believe that the responsibility of a board member is to represent the board, and when decision is made, that's the decision that the board has made, and I would certainly never want to go out to committees or to the public and say, well, you know, they did this and they did that, and I don't agree with it, so I'm just going to go out there and advertise my own position. We have a structure, and there's a system there. Everybody gets a vote, and when the vote is taken, that's the board's position.
Okay, Tony, do you want to add anything?
I'm not really going to add a whole lot more than what Joe said. It's all structure, just like Glenn said. It's all structure. You can have conversations in the open amongst the group, but it's just like running any business. Final decision comes through one person with consensus built upon the group, from the group, excuse me.
Okay, Harry, please keep your question direct.
Yes, I try to, as usual. That's why I sent them in ahead of time. Many of Saddlebrook One's competitors have hired Borders Golf and other experts to help them improve their operations and planning and service and profitability and be more competitive, as well as Troon, Invite, and Arcus Golf Management. Do you think Saddlebrook One should hire outside expert consultants to improve their planning and operations and reduce expenses and increase revenues in golf and food and beverage after allocating $3.4 million of overhead to golf and food and beverage?
Did you understand that question, you guys? Yeah, I think it's...
Harry, is the question if we should hire a third party to help us in our planning stage?
Yeah, third party.
Is that the question?
Yeah, third party
Okay.
experts, just like our competitors have hired to improve their operations.
I know what the
increase revenue.
I understand what the competitors are doing.
I think you went first last time,
I think
except
so.
we had that little discussion. But I think, Joe, you go first, then we go to Len, then we go to Tony.
Okay. Well, in my life, I spent some time, Harry, as a consultant, you know, and I welcomed every time they said, well, a consultant's coming on, all he is an out-of-town expert. Now, I think in terms of if there's a need, if I deem after I learn more about the board operations, you know, that there's an opportunity to improve operations or improve the planning process through the use of an outside consulting firm, I would certainly recommend that. But at this time, having reviewed all of the board plans that are in place and looking at the annual goals that are published, you know, in April of this year, the president's report, she listed the goals for this year, just like they did last year. So until I see a stronger need, and perhaps even if I see some results from HOA2 and golf operations, I'll be open-minded, but I'm going to have to see a lot more information before I jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. I mean, 26 years in the Coast Guard, I saw a lot of experts, and an expert is just somebody who's not from your hometown. I think that's scriptural, too. But blowing a lot of money on experts, I find is, in many cases, a waste of money. But if you have a problem, then go to the expert, then fix the problem. But Don't just hire an expert to tell you what to do, especially when your ship is running hot, straight, and true. Why are you going to go out to an expert to tell you that you should do something different?
Okay, green light down. Okay. I kind of agree with these gentlemen here. I owned a consulting business, okay, in the construction side.
So did I.
Okay, so we would, if we had our clients come to us, we would recommend what they should do. Ultimately, it's up to them. But let me back up several steps on that. If we feel through conversation, putting groups together and having the conversation that we need to bring in an outside committee, that's a conversation that the board would have to have and make a decision. So I'm not opposed to it, but that's not the first thing that I'm going to jump to.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else coming up, so I think I'm going to take an opportunity to ask 2 questions that we've received today. And that might be the end of the questioning unless somebody raises their hand and says they want us to go on another half hour. Okay, so the first question, we all know that Tucson seems to be getting warmer and warmer and drier. Hotter and drier conditions mean an increase in fire hazards for HOA1 properties. What are your plans to mitigate fire hazards to our property? It is definitely Len. I've got a note saying it's Len.
I'd call in an expert.
You all done with that one? Okay. I'm definitely not a fire expert, but property and roads, the operation team, we've all talked about issues within the community, within our HOA. I know HOA2 is going in and clear cutting a bunch of stuff in certain areas. Do I have a plan? I have to tell you, no, I don't. It's kind of up to all of us to kind of take control of it, take control of your property, make sure you keep it clean. The common areas, if you see something, bring it to property and roads. We'll bring it to the operations team and we'll work through the issues. Like I said, I'm not a fire expert, and if there wasn't an issue, I'd probably call an expert too.
I say yes for the expert. The only thing I would just add to that is that there's an email went out this week about the Pinell County Emergency Evacuation System. And I just went online and registered for that this morning because we had that discussion when we had the fire here, 3-4 years ago. You know, how do they get the word out? And it was, you know, we live on the other side of this hill here, and so we saw the fire pretty close. So I just suggest, you know, the one step that we can all take right away is to register for that Pinell County Emergency Notification System.
Okay, the second question. In the HOA2 strategic planning focus groups, there were 2 disturbing comments. 1, HOA2 board discussion. We have much more space and facilities than Saddlebrook 1, so some see it as unfair. So in other words, Saddlebrook 2 has more space and facilities than Saddlebrook 1. That seems to be unfair to the HOA2 residents. And the residents, there is a concern about subsidizing the use of amenities and spaces for HOA1 property owners. The question, how would you work to overcome this perception before the next reciprocal agreement? And the first person is Len this time, yes.
Let me take that because that came up big time in the reciprocal agreement. The first time they approached us, HOA2 approached us, they said, well, we have more amenities than you do. Therefore, you can understand what the rest would be. So we pointed out to them that, no, you have your 60% and we're 40% in terms of size. And we pointed out the actual amenities that we have for our size is the same as they have for their size. But then they shifted. They said, okay, well, we have more meeting rooms spaces than you do. Well, guess what? We went back and did the calculation. It was 60-40. So we had exactly the same. Of course, then it came down to, we're better than you. And that's when we went and said, look, we use yours, you use ours, and let's close out this negotiation. And that's the way it went. And I think they understand that. Their board is very knowledgeable, and they're faced with a lot of problems, and they're trying to handle them. And I think when they handle them better, I guess, then there'll be more cooperation between the two of us. It's just, we're run better. I'm sorry, but that's just the case.
Tony, next.
Okay, the 60-40 split has been a long conversation for a long time, and I do agree with that. What we have to do is we have to work towards bringing both communities together. And if you look at where we're headed with a new community center, technical building, whatever you want to call it, coming up to enhance our arts and crafts and to be able to take care of both communities, because if you look at the membership in the arts and crafts, it's as many HOA2 people as there is HOA1 people. It is probably, as Len mentioned, a 60-40 split. And a lot of people who are helping in this task force are HOA2 people that are helping to identify what their needs are. So a good thing to help us to move forward with renewing a reciprocal use agreement in the future is to help to build a good, strong, vibrant community center, technical building, whatever you want to call it. And before this is all done, we're going to come up with one name that works so that everybody understands that is going to bring everybody in, and even new people coming in. So, and that 60-40 split, I don't think is going to change. Okay, I think it's here. We got to work within it, and to help with that, I definitely believe a new community center is going to help in the process.
I think at the present, when I go to the fitness center in the morning, I would say probably half of the people that are there are from HOA2. And I say, well, why don't you go over to your own fitness center? Is this one better? No, he says, well, they don't open until 6 o'clock, Or we have a strong social group here. We like coming here. And it's the same as friends I play golf with from HOA2. They love the golf over here. They love the people in the pro shop. And the folks that come down from the Reserve use our dining facility a lot. And that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be with the reciprocal use agreement. We should share and use the amenities back and forth equitably. And I would say that I second what Tony's saying about the new community center or technical building, that will get us closer to a 50-50 split, I think, in terms of amenities that we offer to each other.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody standing at the mic, so I think we go into the concluding remarks, and we agreed is that me? We agreed that we'd do it in the reverse order to the opening remarks, so it goes Len, Joe, Tony, and I think you can stay at your seats for these.
Okay. In closing, I would like your vote to be on the board so that I can lend the only talent that I've got, which is common sense and legal ability, to board decisions. And I ask for your vote.
I think, as I said earlier, I've spent a couple of months working hard, to have this opportunity to serve you, attending committee meetings, reading regulatory manuals, going to board meetings. I've met with every staff head here in Saddlebrook 1. And I've talked to well over 150 people, in this 2 months. And I think I'm tuned into what people are telling me they want. But I'd also encourage you to consider something. This is just a piece of paper, just like the profile and the resume that I presented. I wrote it. I'm encouraging you to go a little deeper because these elections are very, very important. I think some characteristics that you ought to talk to people that know me, Len or Tony. What am I getting? What am I signing up for by checking his name on the box? Am I going to get a team player, a good listener, someone that's open-minded, not a my way or the highway type of person? Someone that's able to develop consensus and able to separate wants from needs. So HOA 1 is financially solvent, it's well managed, it has good plans for the future. It's a very successful HOA 1. I ask for your vote today because I'll do everything I can. And I don't care, you can mention this to your friends too, that we're going to stay on track.
Well, I'm not a great public speaker, so I don't know how to top that one. But I've spent a lot of time being involved in the HOA here. I've slowly worked my way to understanding how the system works. I put a lot of time and effort into this community. I'm not somebody that actually goes out and engages people all the time, but I do listen when they come to me. I think the HOA is well managed. I think Vivian does a great job from the operations standpoint. What I think this community lacks a little bit is where the vision is in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. How are we going to keep bringing these people in, buying our homes when we pass away or we decide to move out, whatever it may be, but keeping an open mind to try and see where this community is. I work really hard. I've spent a lot of time working through the committees. We've come up with a lot of great ideas. We've executed some projects here, and you're not going to find anybody else that's going to work harder than me. So I ask for your vote, and thank you for coming. It's very important.
Okay, well, I thank all our candidates. They answered the questions very well, and I've got one or two things to just close. If you are voting electronically, look for an email on Friday, I think it is, which is October the 20th. I'm told, I think correctly, that it's not going to be out till late on Friday, so look for it on Saturday morning. And if you're submitting a paper ballot, that will be mailed on Friday the 20th. And be sure to submit your vote by 4 p.m. on November the 20th. And the election results will be announced when they're verified, which we expect to be November the 22nd. Oh, and now Linda's coming to tell me I got it wrong.
I just wanted to clarify something. The ballots will go out emailed at midnight on Thursday night or Friday morning. So
I thought you said...
First thing.
Oh dear, I thought it was midnight on Friday. Okay. Thank you, Linda. As I said, Linda is very valuable. Anyway, that's the end. I think we should give our candidates a round of applause again. Thank you all for coming, and please vote.